Welcome, everyone, to the Sonoma Spiel. My name is Tim Zahner with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. We're recording this in late winter. Late winter means when the vineyards are dormant. And I mentioned last time the mustard is growing in the vines. When the vines are dormant, though, is when some of the most important work happens, is when they're pruning the vines. And you have crews out there, and they're snapping away chop, 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 with their Felco number 4 clippers, and they're clipping everything and getting the canes ready for the next growth. And this past year, or past month, past week, past time distance sometime, we just had the pruning championship. And every year, the best from the different regions get together, and they have a big pruning championship. This year, I think the pruning championship was held up in Guerneville, or was it in Geyserville? It was up in Geyserville at Ferrari Carano Vineyards in Alexander Valley, and there's a really good story about it. But the person that won in the men's division, Miguel Galvan with Vine Pro Vineyard Management, is the champion. Good job. And then Andrea Silva with Atlas Vineyard Management in the women's division took first place there. So congratulations to them. And that's kind of the crucial part for every people coming here to taste our wine and see all the beautiful things. It really starts in winter, in dormancy, when they're preparing the vines for the next harvest. And Sonoma Valley is an agricultural area and is a place where we celebrate things that grow. And we're more in tune with the agricultural cycles than we are than with other kind of seasonal cycles. So with that, it makes sense that today I have a special guest. I have this week a very special guest. I know every week I say that. This week I actually mean it. This week I have Jeannie Perales with Sonoma Botanical Garden. Jeannie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And Jeannie, you are not a winemaker.
No, I'm a wine drinker.
You're a wine drinker.
I like to drink wine.
You like to drink wine.
Mm-hmm.
Were you aware that the pruning championship was a thing up here before you came here?
I really wish I would have known. But now I know for next year.
You can practice and see what you can do there. Jeannie, you're with the Sonoma Botanical Garden.
Yes.
Can you tell me where that is for people who don't know?
Sure. It's on Highway 12 in Glen Ellen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's between, say, the town of Sonoma and going towards Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
And you're up there.
Kind of smack dab in the middle there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And was it always a botanical garden, or what's the story of that place?
Yeah, it's got a fascinating history. Our founder, her name was Jane Jansen Davenport.
Okay.
She bought the property in 1968.
Okay.
She lived in San Francisco, and so it was her wine country getaway.
Oh, okay.
She bought 40 acres.
Okay.
And when she got there, the house already existed. It was from 1958.
Okay.
It's a little ranch house, a 3-2, kind of simple. And she hired a gardener to put in a pretty garden all around it.
She's like, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Put in a garden. Okay.
A home garden,
right,
at that time. She put in a pool and a tennis court and a little building where she could play bridge with her girlfriends late into the night, as I understand it.
As you did back then.
Yeah, I think she had a lot of fun, and she planted 15 acres of Cabernet Sauvignon because that was her favorite wine.
Okay.
And then she became interested in the upper part of the property, which was an old quarry, a sandstone quarry, which had been quarried up until 1906. Oh. And so it was kind of you might imagine a sort of hot, rocky, bald
kind
hillside,
of
exposed. There were some knobcomb pines and some Douglas firs. But became interested in thinking what that could become. And there was some interesting topography because of the quarry. So there were these kind of indentations where a pond could be created, creeks could be kind of carved out. And she had this kind of wonderful team of gardeners that she was working with.
Okay.
And this was, by this time, this was like mid-70s. And, here we are. In California, Northern California, we're part of the Pacific Rim, right? And the geopolitical relationships with China were really shifting at that point, right? So I believe it was Nixon in 72 had kind of started conversations with China. There had been like 22 years of no trade or communication essentially between our nations. And eventually with Carter in 79, trade opened up and everything changed.
Okay.
Everything changed, including the nursery trade. Oh. And so nursery people became very interested in plants of East Asia.
Interesting. Okay.
And so what happened was her gardening team struck up a partnership with Kew Gardens and Howick Arboretum.
Are those in Hong Kong, Kew Garden? No, where's Kew Gardens?
England.
England, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But there's no better gold standard than Kew Gardens.
Okay.
And so, because this was a private garden, you have to imagine, this was her home garden, essentially. She would never have been able to get the collecting permits herself.
Okay,
but
okay.
to work with Kew Gardens and this arboretum, they were able to secure the collecting permits and then started going on these expeditions to East Asia.
So she would go?
She didn't go.
Oh, okay.
She funded them.
Okay.
Bill McNamara, who was the garden's second director after Jane, he was really the plantsman.
Okay.
And, he did these expeditions with people from Kew and from Howick and then people boots on the ground in Asia.
Okay.
And they collected the seeds of rare and endangered plants.
Okay.
They couldn't bring the living plant material out, but they could bring the seeds.
There's probably pretty strict rules and that kind of stuff. Okay.
It's hard to move plants across borders.
Okay.
That's why you get checked for fruit at border crossings
exactly.
and that kind of thing, right?
Quick, kids, eat that banana.
Yeah, there's no fruit in here. We're fine.
Right.
So anyway, that's how that kind of got started. And they brought these seeds back and cultivated them and then, designed this really cool kind of organic feeling garden on the hillside. And that's what we have today. And so almost 40 years later, we've got this really dense, lush green canopy.
And these plants are from Asia. Are they from Asia that has similar weather to us? Or are they from tropical Asia? Or what part are they from?
Temperate East Asia.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay.
So, we don't have like a whole lot of tropical plants, like lots of bamboos and that sort of thing that you would see in Southeast Asia.
Got it.
But temperate Asia is essentially, temperate East Asia is China, Korea, Japan. Other parts of our collection came from Himalaya and Mongolia.
That's great.
So you can imagine how exciting many of those expeditions would have been.
I imagine. So like you get your backpack,
Yeah.
you got a little shovel, you're finding seeds.
Yeah.
You bring them back here and trying to get them to grow.
Right. And
hopefully
because
they
we
do.
have a very similar climate, we don't freeze, basically. But it gets cold enough at night. A lot of certain plants, need cold weather at night.
Right.
So for instance, roses are from China.
The rose bush, the flower? Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So do you guys have roses?
Yeah, we do. We have a rose garden, a beautiful rose garden.
That's funny because I always think of England when it comes to roses or Paris or something like that. But I didn't know they're originally from Asia.
Well, they were great explorers as well.
Right, that's
England. So they went all over the world and got the best of everything.
This thing called the British Empire. Interesting. Okay, so that's what you guys are known for.
Yeah.
And you used to have the name called Quarry Hill Garden because you were on a quarry and a hill.
Yeah.
But now you're the Sonoma Botanical Garden.
Right.
What's the impetus for that name change and what does that mean for your mission?
So my most immediate predecessor, Scott Medberry, who was the director after Bill and before me, he had I think a great idea, or maybe he and the board, to change the name from Quarry Hill to Sonoma Botanical so that it would be more recognizable for people.
Yeah, I think Quarry Hill is sort of like, it's a quarry on the hill. What does that mean? So
I think it served its ppurpose for a long time,
Right.
and I know there's a lot of people who still feel a really strong affinity for that name, which I can completely appreciate. But the name Sonoma, there's not a better brand, really.
I mean, I hear they name podcasts after it too, so it's kind of nice.
How about Spiel?
How about the old Spiel?
And that gave the opportunity also to acknowledge where we are, so to situate us in the Sonoma Valley,
right?
And then to open up a portion of the garden which had been back a house for a long time. Mm-hmm. So back in the 90s, Jane was very enterprising, our founder, and when the neighbor's property came up, there was a piece of property called the Three Springs Ranch. Okay. And it was there was a horse barn and pasture, and there were poultry barns. And it's basically a 22-acre chunk that was back a house for all this time up until 2021. When Scott decided to open that up, and that kind of, with the name change, gave us an opportunity to expand the mission to include California native plants.
So now you're like, East Asia plants, we got dialed in.
Yeah.
They've got an explanation. We're going to do California natives.
Yeah.
And it's open to the public.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a really nice new trail that's been cut that is a gentler grade, so it also increased our accessibility. So the California Native Trail is a 5% grade, whereas the trail to go into the Asian garden was kind of 10% right
It was
off the
literally
right
a
off the bat.
quarry road
Yeah.
had been adapted, right? So it was very steep.
Very steep, yeah. And that, we still use that path, but it's nice to offer visitors a gentler slope to enter the garden.
Okay. And what kind of plants do they see that are California natives? What does that mean?
So California natives, I mean, there's it's widely debated what that really means, right? And what does native anything mean when you look at the Columbian Exchange and the supercontinent of Pangea?
Yeah, it all came from Pangea.
Okay, Pangea first, the Columbian Exchange in 1493, etc. So what does native mean? What we mean as basically Northern California.
Got it.
Okay. So there's people say the California Floristic Province, but that's very broad.
Well, what a great California
Floristic Province.
Which is weird because California as a state
Yeah.
goes across so many, do we still say biomes? Is it still a word, of bioregions?
Yeah.
Or do you ever call them? So there's so many variable places in this state.
Oh, yeah. So it's super broad.
Yeah.
So for us, what does California native mean? What exists there right now is 6 different species of California oaks.
Okay.
And an oak woodland and oak savanna.
Okay.
So, and just like any other trail you could go on here, the Overlook Trail or the regional parks, you're going to see a lot of exotic grasses that, of course, turn golden in the summer.
Thank you for calling them golden.
Thank you.
You can stay. Thank you. These are not brown grasses.
No, it's golden.
You've been well done. You learned a lot in your year.
Yeah,
Good job.
it's only 6 months actually,
That's right. Good job.
but I've become indoctrinated. So yes. So it's a beautiful space, but it is really in its infancy as far as what it will be.
Got it. Okay.
So one day we'd like to deal with those exotic grasses and help to regenerate the native seed bank.
Because I've heard a lot of our golden grasses, some of those are introduced European grasses or from other places, and that native California grasses actually had a much deeper rootstock to get the waters up, and they would be supposedly be greener longer because they were like 30 feet deep or something like that.
Well, that makes sense, actually. Yeah. I'm going to blame Luther Burbank. How's that?
Sure, let's blame him.
Hey,
thanks for the blackberries, buddy. I mean, we like the potatoes and the Shasta daisy, but there's blackberries everywhere because that's a Himalayan introduction blackberry. Yeah, and they're everywhere.
That bramble,
there's probably one growing around our ankles right now. They're everywhere.
Well, you got the mistletoe all over Santa
Was
Rosa.
that him too?
That was him, the European mistletoe.
I was explaining to someone last week about that. They're visiting, and I said that's an invasive species, and you only see it really in the winter because when the leaves are off the other trees.
Yeah, it's parasitic.
They're everywhere though.
Yeah, they are. I had to look it up.
Okay.
I had to look it up because I thought, what is that bizarre round growth? What is that?
I know. When you first move here, you're like, that is the weirdest bird nest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It looks like a big bird nest, but they're usually perfect circles or almost like oblong ovals, very evident in like the top 2/3 of a tree.
Yeah.
And they're green.
Right.
When everything else
they're kind of pretty. They almost look like they're decorative or something. Like, how'd they get that up there?
People go get them, for Christmas.
Yeah. Mistletoe.
So they are pretty, but that's the thing. Jeannie, you seem to know a lot about plants. Is that because, are you like a botanist or like a whatever those people are called?
Yeah.
Are you one of those people, an agronomist? What are you? Why are you here?
Gosh, is this an existential interview or
exactly,
what?
yes.
What is my purpose? So, no, I'm a generalist, actually.
Okay.
So I studied anthropology and communications and psychology and never imagined I would end up being the director of a botanical garden. But I love being in a garden. It's my happy place. And I've kind of been in this ecosystem, so to speak, for a long time. I've been working in botanical gardens and art museums for 25 years.
Okay.
So I call myself a museum professional.
Got it. Okay.
And that I use that term really broadly. A museum is essentially a collections-based institution that often operates as an attraction, is usually a nonprofit.
Usually has like an educational kind of mission, maybe.
Yeah, and so I started off in informal education.
Okay.
And then kind of moved into curation and exhibition design and fundraising and administration, and I've just worn a whole lot of different hats.
Got it.
And I've been in both art museums and public gardens, but gardens are my happy place.
It's a place to be. Where were you immediately before you moved to Sonoma Valley?
Well, I moved here from Florida for the job, from Sarasota, Florida.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. And we did a reverse migration, I suppose. 2,924 miles, in fact.
Really? Did you guys drive?
We did.
Oh, fantastic.
With a U-Haul and a dog
Yes.
and a niece.
Oh,
it was
that's
the
wonderful.
great American road trip. We
Did
actually
you guys
loved
stop and see everything along the way, like the largest ball of twine and like...
That's my favorite museum.
Did you do the southern route? You must have the southern route. So
we did 40.
Okay.
Because 10's too hot in the summer.
Yeah.
It's just too hot.
Yeah,
40 was great. I highly recommend it because it's the Route 66.
It is.
It's a really neat route. So we moved from Florida. So my job right before this was at the Ringling Museum. I was in charge of a capital campaign.
Okay.
So I was in fundraising. And then prior to that, I was at Selby Gardens for almost 11 years.
Okay.
So Selby Gardens is the botanical garden in Sarasota.
Okay.
And
Now, in Florida, do they have like a lot of like tropical plants and that's their kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely a subtropical climate. Selby specializes in neotropical plants, so Central, South America, the Caribbean.
Oh, neotropicals in the New World?
The New World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
like,
New
is it
World.
plants that you invented? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for instance, I don't know my Asian plants very well yet
Got it.
because
Okay.
I know my neotropical plants much
Understood
better.
now.
So
Okay.
I have a big learning curve there at the garden, but I'm a lifelong learner,
You're
so
there,
that's
yeah.
a fun
You can do it.
challenge. Yeah.
And it's funny, in California, we do have a lot of connection with Asian plants, especially like San Francisco has a great botanical garden. But even the culture here, historically in Northern California, you had a lot of Japanese farmers.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of Japanese plants and vegetables and things in Northern California.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about Japanese maples are a big thing out here. People do love them. And there was even gangs of people stealing Japanese maples. So it must have been a thing. I don't even know if they're actually Japanese, but that's what we call them here. So it's kind of neat that you get to learn something new about who we are here. But you didn't study plants. When you were a kid, were you like, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be an interior decorator or a landscape architect.
Oh.
So
You're kind of in that zone.
sort of in that
I like
zone,
that.
at least.
Okay.
And I work with a lot of, over the years, I've worked with a lot of landscape architects.
Okay.
Just in kind of master planning
Yeah.
sites like this. And but yeah, no, I never anticipated. But then again, I studied anthropology. Anything
Right.
could happen. Anything.
Study people.
Yeah.
People do lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And
It just means you're interested in everything.
That's right. I like that. Be a generalist because
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah.
So you moved out here, and then you're living up in Glen Ellen now, or Kenwood.
Yeah.
What's a big difference you think between living in Florida than living in Northern California? Because there must be some differences.
Oh my gosh, everything.
There's more hills.
Oh my gosh, everything. Yeah, the topography is amazing.
Yeah.
The climate here is incredible.
Because your hair doesn't frizz up. You have no
love,
humidity.
We love the weather. It's just
It's nice.
delightful. The change of seasons is wonderful. It's been, for us, a chilly and kind of gray winter.
Oh, right.
But and so that's been a little bit of an
It is
adjustment.
different. That's right.
And especially because the winters in Florida are really lovely.
That's the best time.
The winters in Florida are like our summers, right?
Right.
So I'm used to like a sunny, you're outside all the time in the winter.
Right.
So that's been an adjustment, but kind of a nice one.
Right.
I'm a little personally an introvert extrovert, so
Okay.
it's an
This is
opportunity
your time
to
inward focus.
yeah, like
read
recharge
a book,
the batteries,
drink
kind of
some
just
tea,
build a fire.
go slightly dormant like the plants.
Yeah. So
And
that
then-
sleepy time it's kind of a welcome change for us,
Yeah.
Also, we live in Glen Ellen. We live in the garden, actually.
That's great.
We joke that we're garden gnomes because we're just always there. We're just always
Sitting
in
on
the
a
garden.
toadstool,
Yeah, we're just
hanging
garden
out.
gnomes. But so that's been a really big change. We lived in a little, very like Florida suburban neighborhood with 77 houses all packed in, and we knew everybody and
Were they all
everyone.
like, in my mind, Florida's like always pastel colored with palm trees.
Yeah.
And that might be wrong.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty accurate.
Okay,
Yep, and
okay.
big palm trees. We were on a lake.
And everyone has lawns, but it's that weird Florida grass.
Yeah.
It's this weird
Well,
spongy,
it's
grassy stuff.
not a Florida grass.
Oh.
It is an exotic invasive.
Along with
Yeah.
the, don't you guys have like anacondas there now too?
Oh my gosh, pythons. Yes,
Pythons.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a lot of exotic things and people in Florida. It's a very interesting state.
It is.
Never dull.
Never a dull moment.
Never
in Florida
dull.
there.
But yeah, so we lived in this, tightly packed, tightly knit community. So I think living really rural
Now
has
you're
been
very
a
rural.
difference.
For people listening, Glen Ellen is exceptionally diffuse, and I mean it's a cute little town, but the population's
so
spread out.
Yeah.
People live up in the hills, or they live on farms,
Yeah.
or vineyards, because a lot of grape growing happens up there.
It's quiet. We
It's
didn't
very
get any
quiet.
trick-or-treaters. We didn't.
They would have to get in a. That'd be so funny. A trick or treater.
We got no trick-or-treaters, and the
they
other
would have
day-
to walk through like half a mile of vineyard to get you.
I know. And the other night we decided we'd try to order pizza. We didn't know if we would be able to get a delivery to our house, but El Fuoco actually
he
delivered.
Okay.
Delivered out there. I was really excited about that. So look it up. Look it up. No, it's great. We love Glen Ellen. It's super sweet. It's just a really delightful
It's probably a
place
lot
to
of
be.
beautiful stars at night.
Oh, my
and,
gosh.
Big skies.
Yeah.
And Valley of the Moon, as they call it. So that's a good spot. But yeah, I imagine a little bit different. And the food's probably a little bit different, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it's
know?
a foodie community.
Yeah.
And we like that. My
Good.
husband and I are both foodies. My husband's from Spain, so we've done a lot of
Okay.
traveling.
Okay.
And we kind of been around the world.
Okay,
and
so wait,
we-
what's the best Spanish dish in your mind?
Oh, well, a really, really simple one called tortilla de patatas.
I was going to ask about this. I had neighbors who were Spanish,
Yeah.
and they said, "You want to come over for tortilla?" I'm like, "Okay, you're just going to flip a tortilla." I'm like, and then they went over there.
not a
and-
Mexican
No,
tortilla.
exactly. And he's like chopping potatoes and onions.
Yeah.
And it was really funny. And he goes, "This is the real tortilla," and that's quite good.
It's delicious. It's simple. It's like peasant food, but it's so good.
Spaniards, I don't know, my sample size one, they have opinions about food.
You think?
Like he was so funny. He invited us all over, and we were doing a paella, and he's like, "We're doing a real paella," and so all the Mexican neighbors were like, "This is the worst paella we've ever had. There's no spice, there's no kick, and why is there like a rabbit?" And
So that is real.
And he's like, "No, this is what paella is."
Yeah.
He was such an absolutist. I love. He was
was
a
he
great
from
neighbor.
Valencia?
He was from
Yeah.
that area. Yeah.
That's where they do the duck. Yeah, they do. And not duck. I'm sorry, rabbit.
The rabbit. He was so mortified when the Mexicans were like, "Okay, this is not spicy.
Yeah.
We need some kick."
Well, and Spanish chorizo has paprika and garlic in it,
yeah.
and Mexican chorizo has spicy pepper
Yes.
in it. So it's a very
And I
different
think
flavor.
in California, we're obviously influenced by Mexico. This being the last Mexican outpost in California,
Which
Sonoma.
actually was Spanish, by the way.
Spanish, but I would say Sonoma was founded actually during Mexican independence from Spain.
Oh, yeah,
Our
that's
mission was the only one, and this was the end of the Spanish Empire. This is, if you're listening, Spanish people, this was the ass end of the empire.
Tío Pepe.
Yeah, Tío Pepe. This is like, if you were sent up here,
Yeah.
like Spain didn't like you, right? They're like, go to the farthest reach. Think about it, how far we are.
Yeah, we are.
You got all South America.
Yeah.
Then they go up to North America, and it kind of ends actually at Sonoma. If you notice, the towns north of us don't have Spanish names.
Yeah. No
The
more
last one
sons.
is Santa Rosa, and that's
Yeah.
it. After that, it's Windsor, Healdsburg, Ukiah.
Oh, I never thought about that.
This was the end of it. So if you were a Spaniard
Yeah.
and you were up here,
Right.
you were a problem.
You were like excommunicated.
You were like, go. But yeah, so that's good to know about the tortilla. They call it tortilla de
De patatas.
patatas. Okay, that's good. Thank you for learning something.
Welcome.
Gracias, maestra. Okay, so you're from Florida. You came here. You got the stuff. What I noticed, Botanical Garden, is not only was there a shift away from being solely East Asian plants,
Yeah.
but also you started doing exhibits, like
Yeah.
rotating things. I think it started with last year. There was one on citrus, which was really cool. And I think you had a bunch of citrus plants you had access to,
Yeah.
and they like us. And this year you had one on bonsai,
Right.
which wasn't a big exhibit, because bonsai.
Oh,
okay, Jeannie,
it's just a
thank you.
tiny exhibit. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
wow.
no, so tell
Okay.
me. Well, hey, editor, add some laughter in there. Okay, so tell me
Laugh
about. So tell me about what's the rationale behind that,
Yeah.
and what that means for visitors, and if there's new exhibits coming up.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So yeah, this year we did a little exhibit, bonsai, living sculptures, the art and science of bonsai, in partnership with the Redwood Empire Bonsai Society.
Okay.
That's a Sonoma County nonprofit, and last year, you're right, Scott, my predecessor, had launched the citrus exhibit. It was called From East to Zest.
Okay.
And so that is the idea behind that. It's called the museum model.
Okay.
And it's an operating model that museums use.
Okay.
And basically what it means is that you put in a rotating roster of exhibitions. The cornerstone of the model is rotating exhibitions. And then the building blocks are public programs. And public programs are like activities, right? Tours, classes, workshops, events, live music, things like that. And they're all usually kind of related to your exhibit. Right? So that's exactly what we're doing. We're implementing the museum model. Started off this year with bonsai. On April 5th, we'll open Ribbit Exhibit, which is an adorable and very whimsical collection of 22 copper frogs doing cheeky things like mowing the lawn and walking a dog and playing the trumpet. And they're garden statues, essentially.
Okay. And are these big ones? Like
yeah. Yeah, they're not, frog sized. They're like human sized.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so they're this is really fun.
They're anthropomorphic amphibians, okay?
You can't see them. They're underwater.
Yeah. So the artist is out of North Carolina, and he's been traveling these frogs for about 20 years to gardens all across the country.
Okay.
And it's what you call a plug and play in the exhibition world. It comes sort of packaged. It has collateral with it. You can do with it what you want. There's frog names. There's frog stories. And then you install them in your garden or
cool.
nature center or museum, whatever it is. And then, you can build programs around that.
Okay.
So that's Ribbit. That'll open... We'll have a VIP members-only reception on April 4th.
Okay.
And so you should join if you haven't joined yet, because you can come to our party.
Be a VIP. Okay.
And then the next day, the 5th, it opens to the public, and it's going to run through the summer. So it'll go through the end of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned you tip your hand, membership.
Yeah.
People can join this organization.
That's right. That's right. You sure can.
This is where we turn into like the public radio drive. And join now and get your tote bag.
Speaking of tote bags now.
So because you can pay to get in.
Right.
There's a ticket price sometimes.
Yeah.
All the times. But if you become a member, it's free because you get annual
That's right.
things. Okay.
Yeah. So membership is a great deal. It's an economic union, like marriage.
Okay, yeah, totally.
You're sort of marrying us for a year. You're marrying the garden, you're marrying the plants. But what that means, of course, is that you can come back time and again. We're also part of the American Horticultural Society, which means you get free access to 350 gardens across the country.
Oh, really?
It's an amazing
Is there someone
deal.
that's been to all of them and they have like a passport they get stamped or something like that?
It might be me.
That we should do it.
It might be me.
350 something?
So it's a great deal, basically, is my point. So you can go to San Francisco Botanical Garden for free. You can go, I think Ruth Bancroft is part of the reciprocal.
Okay.
I want to say in Walnut Creek, I want to say the Berkeley Garden is reciprocal.
Okay.
So, it's a great deal.
That's a good deal. Okay.
It's a great deal. And then, we're adding a lot of value for members this year. We're going to add a couple of new programs, kind of in conjunction with Ribbit. One of them, both of them really could be standalone. In May, we're going to launch a music series called Acoustic Sunsets.
Okay.
And we're going to do 27 nights of live music, unplugged. You can bring dogs.
Oh, that's cool.
For the first time, we're going to allow people to bring well-behaved, I should say well-behaved owners with leash dogs. That's what's happening.
Well, then I can't go.
I know. People can bring picnics. People can BYO whatever. They can bring their kids. We'll have lawn games. And that's free for members. So it's kind of like a members music series.
Oh, that's a nice little perk.
Yeah.
Wait, and how many concerts are there?
27.
That's a lot.
Wednesday nights. Wednesday night is neighborhood night in Glen Ellen.
Okay.
And that was inspired by the Star.
Oh, okay.
So I loved the concept of neighborhood night. And my husband and I have gone a couple times, and we've just had such a nice time. And I thought, this is a really cool idea.
It is.
We got our Tuesday night market in Sonoma on the plaza, which is so awesome. That's one of our favorite things we did when we first came.
That is an epic farmer's market.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's not a farmer's market. It's a party with an occasional vegetable tucked in somewhere. There's some kale over there. Right. All right. So then on Wednesday, where you mentioned Glen Ellen Star has a locals night or a community night, and it's a big thing. So you're going to continue that.
Yeah.
Live music,
dogs,
people can bring
kids,
BYOB,
picnics,
BYOP, whatever.
We're inviting vintners to come and pour so people can do a sip and stroll for free.
Okay.
We haven't filled all those nights yet, but we're working on that.
If you're not a member, though, can you still go?
You can still go.
Okay.
You just pay the entry fee, which is $15 per person.
Well, that's not a bad
for adults. No, it's a great idea.
What are you talking? This is the best idea ever.
This is a great idea.
And not just because it was my idea.
No, it's really, I don't have any original ideas. These are the kinds of things that you do.
There are no new ideas.
There are no new ideas.
And we're not the first person to say that.
No.
Do you guys have like a gift shop though or something like that where people can buy, during Acoustic Sunrise, like, oh, I want to buy a garden implement or something like that.
Oh, yeah. We've got a great little shop, actually.
Okay.
And we're stocking up on picnic blankets and all kinds
So
of
all that
other
sort of
fun,
stuff,
like
good.
kind of summer-themed things.
Okay.
And lots of frog-themed things as well
There
now.
are people who like frogs.
Yeah.
They collect frog stuff.
Seriously. Yeah. Frogs.
It's weird.
Well, frogs have a life cycle just like, ladybugs
they
and
do.
butterflies.
That's
I mean, they're
true.
kind of fascinating
Well,
creatures.
and right now,
Yeah.
you start hearing them out, because when it rains in California
Oh,
during
yes.
our cooler season, you can hear the frogs going crazy.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have not frog babies, frog eggs, I guess. And then the tadpoles come out. So around the time that Ribbit Exhibit's happening, you're in a crucial part of the frog life cycle.
I love it.
So
You're good at this, Tim.
every kid gets a tadpole. No.
Yeah.
Bring
Moms
one
are
home.
like, you got one, like the
Thanks.
goldfish
Like the
from the
stupid
fair.
goldfish.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks everyone.
Something else that's going to die in our
Well,
house.
speaking of kids, we
Yeah.
are also going to launch Sunday Fun Days.
What's that?
So it'll be a monthly kind of family festival type feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the second Sunday of every month, June, July, and August.
Okay.
And we're bringing Art Escapes, Art Van Gogh.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Okay.
they're great. They have an art. They
Yeah.
put it in a van, and
Yeah.
it goes. That's
Yeah.
the name.
Art Van Gogh.
Art Van Gogh.
And Art Escape, by the way, just a quick side note, people don't know, it's in the Sonoma Springs. They have a lot of good activities, whether you live here or you're visiting, geared toward teens. And it's very friendly and approachable. You don't need to be a professional artist. It's
Yeah.
just like creativity
Yeah.
and super positive stuff. And I
Oh.
love their building there with the springs. They always have a bunch of bikes parked in front of it because kids are all excited.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's an awesome
smart.
organization. I really believe there's 4 kind of natural therapies: nature, movement, art and arts and crafts, and music.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
so in a way, we're kind of combining all those things,
Put 'em all together, yeah.
So we'll have Art Van Gogh from Art Escapes. We'll have music with Miss Mindy. She's a children's musician.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to have face painters.
Okay.
And Sonoma Yoga is going to do family yoga
Oh,
with all
great.
kinds of froggy poses.
Okay.
And it's going to be really fun. So it'll be,
You're leaning into that frog stuff.
we're leaning into the frogs. We're working with it. So yeah. And then again, that's free for members and
It is,
included
really?
with admission.
Okay.
So yeah.
And that'll be on Sundays.
It's just once a month in the summer.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a lot going on over there.
We got a lot going on. We really want this garden to become a part of the bigger community.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times since I've been here for 7 months, I run into people, I introduce myself, I say where I work, and 9 times out of 10, they're like, I didn't know we had a botanical garden.
They never knew.
So I don't want that to happen anymore.
And well, you got the big sign in front. It says Sonoma Botanical Garden. And I think programming is smart, and getting, like, Art Escape will bring people up there because
Yeah.
they're tied in here with a lot of
Yeah.
people. And having 27 different musicians come up. We've talked earlier on this podcast that Sonoma Valley has an inordinate amount of musicians. I don't know why that is. The people love to go to the live music here.
Yeah.
And a lot smaller towns and villages don't have that kind of live
Yeah.
music scene. So that's a smart move. That's a very smart move.
It was a good idea, I told you.
See, you're so smart. And no one else has ever done that ever.
It's brand new.
Ever. When people go to your garden, explain the garden, your museum, or whatever we're calling this place here.
Garden.
The garden. Take me through the experience for a first-time visitor. Like, what's it like? They pull off Highway 12.
Yeah.
Take me through it.
That's a great question. When you pull off Highway 12, you'll be driving through a Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard. So it feels like anywhere else on Highway
Plain old
12.
wine country,
It's just
right.
what you're in wine country. So I love that the vineyard situates us in the valley. And then you park and you sort of walk a little ways kind of south.
Okay.
When my predecessor was here and he opened up the California Native section, he really changed the sort of wayfinding for guests. And so I think a lot of people who have been there before are still like kind of groping their way through trying to find where they're.
Right.
So we're working on wayfinding. We actually got funding for new signage and that
great.
sort of thing. So, and then you approach the visitor center, the Welcome Center, which actually is right now under kind of undergoing a transformation itself, because we're working with Sonoma Ecology Center and Habitat Corridor Project to put in a California native, fire-resilient, water-wise demonstration garden all around our visitor center.
Okay.
So you're going to walk up and you're going to see all these California native plants.
Okay.
Soon, when we open Ribbit, we're going
Right.
to unveil the garden.
Okay.
Right now it's like a lot of mulch and tilling
Okay.
and stone. And then when you walk into the Welcome Center, that's where we sell the tickets. That's where our gift shop is.
Okay.
And right now, that's where bonsai is on display through March 22nd.
Okay.
And then you walk through that, like I mentioned, that kind of gentler slope. It's like this 5% grade up through the California Oaks Trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go up to the Asian part, is that we go to the left and you go up the hill?
Yeah, so you keep going through the oaks, and then you keep kind of going up the hill, and then you cross through a redwood forest that the founder and the garden team planted kind of to delineate her property from the neighbor's property.
Got it. Okay.
So it's this beautiful little redwood forest. You pass through it, and then you're in this Asian garden.
Well, that's cool.
Which right now has its winter look. You know,
Right.
it's if you like barks and berries and seeing the birds.
Right.
This is a great time to come.
It's actually great bird watching.
It's great bird watching right now.
In the summer, you can hear them, you can't see them.
That's right. Yeah,
And
I'm
now you
seeing
get both.
all the birds right now.
Right.
It's awesome. And when you get there, you're like, okay, this is different. This is not your kind of more sparsely kind of grassy savanna type area. It's really lush. You can hear creeks flowing. There's water year round, which is special. I think that's why we have such amazing wildlife there. Just this morning, I looked out my office window and I saw a bobcat.
For real.
I saw a bobcat.
So I was going to bring, you mentioned the Sonoma Ecology Center. You're on a wildlife corridor that
We
goes
are.
from the Sonoma Mountain to the Mayacamas Mountains or Mayacamas Mountains, however you want to call it. And I think in addition to bobcats, I think there's mountain lions out there. There's supposedly bear up there in the mountains. Yeah. So you get a lot of big animals.
We have megafauna. We do.
Megafauna,
We have
thank you.
megafauna in the garden. We've got apparently P5, which is one of the mountain lions who's kind of infamous for some reason.
We saw P5 was, so they're tagged on their collars and they have names.
Okay.
Actually, if you go to Wine Snob Winery, they have some different wines devoted to the cougars and the pumas.
Neat.
But I think P5 was caught on a camera in the Springs last week. So they're here.
It's at large.
P5 or P4, but yeah, they're out there.
Yeah.
You think P stands for Panther? What does P stand for?
Well, that makes sense.
Maybe they're all named Pedro. Who knows?
Pedro. Pedro number 5.
Pedro number 5.
It's Pedro number 4 and Pedro number 5.
We had a good name. We ran with it. But that's cool that they've been tagged in your area. Huh?
Yeah, so we've got bobcats, mountain lions, coyote. Right now we have 2 pair of deer.
Oh.
2 different pair of deer living in the garden, which actually isn't good for a garden, but I sure love seeing them. It makes me feel happy.
Well, if it's almost spring, you're going to have the baby skunks coming out soon. And they're not the brightest. It's funny because adult skunks figured out avoid going. Baby skunks go in your door and stuff. They're very curious.
Good to know.
Kittens. Yeah.
Okay.
And so you'll always see in the springtime when the babies come out. Often people walking down a country road will have a skunk following them, and they're like, "This is not good." And there's a little baby skunk, I'm going to say hi. So that would be kind of cool to see the wildlife up there too.
Yeah, it's great.
That'd be
it's
neat.
Great.
But okay, before we go any further on, do you guys have a website so people can find more information about you?
Do.
What is your website?
It's sonomabg.org.
sonomabg.org. People can find membership information. They can find out about the Ribbit Exhibit, the California Native Plant Exhibit, the Sunday Fun Days, and the Acoustic Sunsets.
Sunsets. Yeah, don't come out at sunrise. Nothing will be, the musicians are still asleep.
That's right. They're definitely still asleep.
They're still asleep.
Until the crack of noon.
And also we have a calendar listing that lists all of our different tours and different programs that we're offering. And
SonomaBG.com.
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And if you're so inclined, you can sign up for our newsletter, which is a monthly e-blast. It's free.
Okay.
You don't have to be a member to receive it. And I send out a monthly, report and just sort of update, and so that people can kind of see what's coming and what we've been up to. Yeah. Okay. So.
And I like that you mentioned you work with the Ecology Center and the different people that are part of the natural environment here, because that is, people do come to Sonoma Valley. Of course, grapes and agriculture is a big part of it, but also a huge part of it is our wild spaces and our semi-wild spaces, and especially as you get into the upper reaches of those mountains, there's no ag up there. It's like rocks and mountains and trees, and
it's incredible.
And P5, Pedro 5.
We're very lucky here. We
Yeah,
have so much green space. Yeah, I was in Florida. I sat on the Science and Environment Council for a dozen years in Sarasota. So I was the longest serving member of the council.
Oh, wow.
And when I came here, I was like, how am I going to find all my people? How do I find my conservation corps?
They'll come out of the woodwork.
And I'm finding them.
They're
and
everywhere.
It's a very nice, collaborative group of people that they got each other's back.
And I'm going to have Caitlin from the Ecology Center on the podcast again coming up. And she's a quite accomplished biologist, and she'll talk very in depth about the science and stuff like that. And they do such good work for things like that. And I love how they're really into the Sonoma Creek watershed. And it's funny, the older you get, the more I'm like, this is really amazing. When you're younger, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
And you're like, how does all this stuff fit together and work? And where do we fit into it? And it's pretty amazing.
It's nice to live in a state that really values conservation and green space and really.
And where you are, so you've got the state parks. Sugarloaf State Park is next to you. Jack London State Park's at the side of the hill over there. Sonoma Valley Regional Park, which is incredibly accessible, especially for people in wheelchairs or if you have strollers, the kids, because it's a paved area, and that goes into Glen Ellen. We don't have national parks per se in Sonoma Valley, but we have almost everything else.
Yeah.
And the redwoods aren't far away.
Oh my gosh, Armstrong Redwoods, and then to go over to Point Reyes. I mean, this county blows my mind. Like the biodiversity in this county.
That's what I was saying. Like the California.
I cannot believe it.
It's a weird state. Well, because California has deserts to alpine areas to the coast. And so just up in this county, we have a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
And it's weird to have that incredible diversity. You drive 20 miles and it changes.
Oh.
But a lot of topography and the rivers and stuff like that. But
it's amazing. I think the first time we drove over to Bodega Bay, that was maybe a month into our being here, my husband and I kept looking at each other and I was like, why is there so much open land? What's going on? How come everything isn't developed? Because we came from Florida.
Right.
We did. And then I learned about the sort of citizen effort. It started in Marin County, I believe, in the 60s, and then kind of moved into helping to establish Point Reyes as a national seashore.
There's a lot of preservation of the coast.
Yeah,
and it's
all the
owned by
conservation land.
And I don't know about in Florida, but in California, you can't own the coast.
Yeah, no, that's not the case in Florida.
Yeah, so it's by law, you're allowed anywhere up to the high water mark along the coast.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
There's always the rich people down in Southern California who are trying to keep people off. You're no, that's the law.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool, and it really does make it, if you're a hiker or any kind of outdoorsy person, and how you mentioned, that's one of the ways to kind of fill your soul is to be outdoors. And you don't have to be rich to have a big plot of land. You just got to be able to go outside and take the bus to the regional park,
just access,
and walk around someplace, right? So
that's right.
That's the way it is. All right, Jeannie, you know a lot of things. You're a wealth of information. You know about museums. You studied anthropology. You did all sorts of stuff like that. So this is great.
Ask me anything.
Well, that's why.
Uh-oh.
Good. And again, before we get to sonomabg.org for any questions about the botanical gardens. But we've got 2 visitor centers. You know that, one in the plaza, one at Jacuzzi. People call us, ask us questions. They text us, all sorts of things. Today, I'm making you one of our volunteers because you're going to help me out in what we call We Get Questions. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You haven't seen these.
No, I haven't seen those.
And we just had lunch, but I didn't show them to you. So these are questions that we get. I'll read them to you, and you don't have to answer them. You can just do your best guess, or you can just say, Tim, help me out. So here we go. I have an itinerary coming up. I would love any input. And this is the listings. Salt and Stone, Happy Hour Lunch, Glen Ellen Star, Jack London Bar, Golden Bear Station, Girl and the Fig. Anything else in the area that I must get in? This is from Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a pretty exhaustive itinerary. They're all places to eat.
I know. I think they're going to walk it off and maybe even sober up a little bit at Sonoma Botanical Garden.
Good answer. Good answer. So, because that's near Golden Bear Station, which is a new restaurant. And it's near, you're also between, say, Glen Ellen Star and Golden Bear Station. You are bracketed by 2 wonderful restaurants. Yeah. So I think it's right. You should go to Sonoma Botanical Garden and walk it off.
Yeah, walk it
and
off. We have 3
miles
of hiking trails.
3 miles. And plus, I hear there's an amazing frog exhibit coming.
There is. Ribbit Exhibit. It's going to take this town by storm. But, we also have this beautiful view once you get to the summit. There's a chorten or stupa which is where we have the prayer flags.
Right.
And the view over the valley is
That's a great view.
Stunning.
Looking back there.
And
Okay.
with the acoustic sunsets, we'll be offering that view at sunset, which we're not usually open at sunset, so that's new.
Okay, good. So Botanical Garden is the right answer. If anyone's coming from Spain, maybe your family come from Spain, do you take them any places that are like special, or have they visited you yet?
No, we haven't had the Spanish family come. We've had a lot of the American families come. Actually, and lots of also people who aren't really family or very close friends. It's
All
Sonoma.
of a sudden, they're like, oh, I've always wanted to see, like, we went to middle school and I didn't talk to you.
No, it's great. I mean, I don't blame them. I want to come visit too. We've been to Armstrong Redwoods. I think that's spectacular. Point Reyes is amazing. Closer to home, I think the Benzinger Winery and Tram Tour is awesome.
They're fun. Yeah.
So great.
You did a good job. So good. So this person from Facebook, go to the Botanical Garden and go to those other things. Good. Here's a question we got today. It's from a guy from Boston. Okay. You ready? Mm-hmm. Is the farmer's market open already? Literally. He didn't say he's from Boston, but he walked by. And
that was a pretty good impersonation.
Like, you're from Boston. He's like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, so Friday mornings is the farmer's market open already? Do you know?
It is open.
It's
open till noon.
Yeah, it's open every Friday year-round.
Yeah.
On Friday, and open till, I think, noon or noon 30. I can never tell.
Okay.
They're farmers. They don't move that fast.
It takes a while to break everything down.
But yes, Mr. Boston guy, it's open.
It's open.
And I go there and I get from Baker and Cook, I get a seasonal fruit galette, and I get what she insists on calling, what does she call them? Beignets, but they're actually donut holes. They're expensive-looking donut holes. They're so good. They're not expensive-looking. They're delicious. They're so good.
They're just expensive, but
well,
they're delicious.
That's one of these. They're only like $4 for like a whole bag.
Oh, that's
so
not
they're
bad.
not.
Yeah.
But they taste expensive, and they're gluten-free if you're a gluten-free person. So I'm not, but I know people who are. So yeah, they're really good. Okay, so the farmer's market is open already. Yeah. Get your donkeys, guy from Boston. Okay. This one came in via text. People can text us.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Okay.
I'm considering a vacation to Sonoma in early March. Is there a wine pass that could cover tastings at multiple wineries? Beside wine tasting, what other activities or events take place in March?
Oh, well, you could come see the bonsai exhibit at Sonoma Botanical Garden until March 22nd. I'm so glad you asked.
Fantastic. All right, so Robert from Washington, you can go to the bonsai exhibit in March. That's a good answer. Is that the only thing to do in March?
Oh, I'm sure
what
there's
else would
lots
you
of other
do?
things.
I mean, hiking.
Hiking. You can always go hiking.
There's the farmer's market from the guy from Boston. There's, I don't know when this one starts, but do you know about the Jack London yacht race yet?
Oh, I've heard this is really fun.
Yes.
I don't know when it is, though.
So I think it's in March. Let's look back and look. So we have this big yacht club on the Sonoma Creek.
Which is interesting.
Which you can join.
Okay.
And they race boats, which are 30-inch replicas of Jack London's sloop that he went around the world on.
Yeah.
And they race it from the Jack London bar to another bar at the other end of town,
Sounds right.
as you do. Yeah. And they take bets on that. And that's usually in March because the creek is flowing quite
I was going to say,
now.
that creek is rushing
It's rushing right now. Right.
Yeah.
So you can do that. And there's a whole bunch of different activities happening in March.
Yeah.
The question about wine tasting passes, I have some insights, unless you want to jump in.
I don't know this answer.
So there is, the county has a county-wide wine tasting pass that they provide.
Oh.
We will have a plaza tasting pass that will launch in March.
Okay.
Basically, we're timing it with the Ribbit Exhibit. That was our whole plan.
Brilliant.
Of course, right? Why not?
I mean, frogs and wine.
Exactly. They go together.
Yeah.
So we're doing, we'll have a Sonoma Plaza one launching very soon. Okay. So they can do that. And basically what those do is you can buy like a passport or a tasting pass, and it gets you tastings at different wineries, which is fabulous.
That's great.
Yeah. And also at most of the visitor center, we have a lot of 2-for-1 passes and all the information. So there you go, which saves you a little bit of money to go join the wine club. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, you're doing a good job.
Oh,
you're
thanks.
great. I'm going to put you in for a volunteer pass here. Here's the final question that we got. I'm visiting Sonoma Valley, and I'm from Malawi, and I'm interested in permaculture. Are there good places to learn about these practices in Sonoma Valley? And is there a place where I can see redwood trees?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about permaculture, but I do think that the Benzinger Winery, at being biodynamic, really showcases the importance of relationships between different types of plants and natural pesticides and attracting pollinators and insects with different plants. So I think that would be a good place to go see.
That's a great example. And they have a tour.
Yeah, it's great tour, a tractor tour.
Tractor tour, so it's fun, and they do a really good job of that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay.
And I think the Sonoma Garden Park also is a nice place to go. That's run by Sonoma Ecology Center, and they've got, I know they grow food, and they're doing all kinds of kind of creative and experimental horticulture, I think. So I think those two places would be good to see.
That's a great example. Okay. What about, are there any redwood trees in Sonoma?
Armstrong Redwoods and Guerneville. It's one of my favorite places. It's cold in the winter.
Yes, it actually is. I will give you cold because it is not a deciduous tree, so it keeps its leaves. So when it's winter, the sun's not getting down there. It might be a little bit wetter, and it is actually a little chilly.
It's a different experience in the winter than it is in the summer.
In the summer, people go there to be cool.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like it's a pleasant cool. It's like 65.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, especially when it's like 100 degrees, especially here in Sonoma Valley if it gets warm.
Yeah.
You go, to Guerneville, you're like, oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
In the winter, what I do like about it though is because there's less people. The river is running.
Oh, yeah.
And salmon run up that little creek. So you got to look. Nice. But so there's actually spawning salmon and stuff like that coming up from the Russian River up to, I think it's Feist Creek up there. Huh. But so you can get redwoods at Armstrong Woods, Old Growth. My big joke is that there are redwoods in the plaza. They were planted there, so they're not like the old growth ones that you want.
But you can see redwoods at Sonoma Botanical Garden.
Sonoma Botanical Gardens, right? Because they're planted, and the redwood's a fast-growing tree. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, redwoods grow around the world. I think it's only in California and Asia.
Yeah, China
has a redwood, right?
And we have one of the. We have a specimen.
Oh, you do?
From China.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
It's called the Dawn redwood or something. I gotta look. It's a slightly different looking redwood, but it's up there. I'm not a redwoodologist.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember the scientific name for it. It's like metasequoia or something like that. Anyway.
It'll roll tomorrow when you're doing something else. You're like, that's the name there. Jeannie, you answered all the questions.
Great. Okay.
Wasn't that easy?
That was pretty easy.
You're a genius. This is so simple. Do you have is there anything else that I forgot to ask you about the Botanical Garden?
I mean, I would say one thing. Speaking of wine on the plaza, we have a vineyard partner, La Prenda, and La Prenda has a tasting room on the plaza. Oh, yeah. And I think we might be the only botanical garden to have its own vintage.
I didn't know. Okay, you actually have a labeled. I'm taking a photo here of you.
Isn't that exciting?
There. So you have your own label on a wine.
We do. It's a Cabernet from our
the property
Cabernet vineyard from our property. Ned is a 5th generation, I want to say, grower. Okay. And he actually he's been working to make it certified organic. Okay. And he did that after 3 years of farming it. So we're very proud of it.
Okay.
Yeah, super exciting. We're excited to see what the next vintage looks like.
Can people buy these bottles somewhere?
At La Prenda at the tasting room.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And if you're a member of Sonoma Botanical Gardens, you get 30% off.
Such a deal. Such a deal. And so if I recall correctly, the website for more information about you is what?
SonomaBG.org.
Okay, SonomaBG.org. Jeannie, you've been wonderful. So thanks for coming on. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, everyone.
And everyone, after you've gone to SonomaBG.org and you want more information, go to SonomaValley.com for information, deals, special offers, and all the events, including even ones that aren't happening at the Botanical Garden we'll tell you about. But go to the Botanical Garden first. Mom and Dad, thanks for listening. We'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.